movie a number of years ago. Quite a lot of you. Well, if you remember in the Expelled movie, Ben Stein, who was the host, was speaking to Richard Dawkins. And I want you to listen to the question he asks here, because he basically says, you know, is it possible that life could have been designed? And, of course, Richard Dawkins is an atheist. He says there's no God. Everything came about by natural processes. So let's listen to his answer.
What do you think is the possibility that intelligent design might turn out to be the answer to some issues in genetics or in evolution?
It could come about in the following way. It could be that at some earlier time, somewhere in the universe, a civilization evolved by probably some kind of Darwinian means to a very, very high level of technology and designed a form of life that they seeded onto perhaps this planet.
Oh, of course Richard Dawkins is prepared to believe in a designer, as long as it's an alien. Now think about that for a moment. Oh yes, I believe that it's very possible life was designed and seeded on Earth by aliens. Okay, so they must have come from a planet somewhere. How did those aliens come about? I think his answer would have to be, there was another planet that had aliens. And they seeded life on that planet to produce the aliens that came to this planet. Oh, where did those other aliens come from? There was another planet. You know, I really think Richard Dawkins would be very happy to believe in eternal aliens, but not an eternal God. It just shows you that they'll do anything but believe the truth. And you know why? Because if there is a creator God who made us, who owns us, he sets the rules. It means marriage is a man and a woman. It means abortion is killing a human being. It means you need to submit to God. It means you're a sinner in need of salvation. And of course, Romans 1 makes it very clear that these people who reject God as creator, you know what it says? They suppress the truth and unrighteousness. It's so obvious there's a God. God has made it evident to all, as Romans 1 tells us, as we started off with here this morning, and so they suppress the truth. That's what Richard Dawkins does. He has to suppress the truth. You know what he's really doing? Putting his hands over his ears, his hands over his eyes, and he says, I refuse to hear, I refuse to see, there's no God, I'll believe anything but that. I want you to understand what's happening here. This is their blind faith religion, to try to justify rejecting the God of creation. Let's go on and see what else he says.
Now, that is a possibility and an intriguing possibility. And I suppose it's possible that you might find evidence for that if you look at the details of biochemistry, molecular biology. You might find a signature of some sort of designer.
By the way, you do find a signature of some sort of designer. It's called DNA, a language system and an information system. And he knows that signature is there, but he would rather attribute it to aliens than to an eternal God.
Wait a second. Richard Dawkins thought intelligent design might be a legitimate pursuit?
And that designer could well be a higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe. Well, but that higher intelligence would itself have had to have come about by some explicable or ultimately explicable process. It couldn't have just jumped into existence spontaneously. That's the point.
So Professor Dawkins was not against intelligent design, just certain types of designers, such as God.